Women, heads up here. You're getting a little education from Leslie and Sabrina on identifying your financial footprint and growing your assets in different ways that you can grow your assets.
Welcome to Women We Should Know with international speaker, mindset reset mentor, author, and your host, Leslie Michaels. With audacious honesty and candor, the Women We Should Know podcast presents the wisdom and life-empowering insights of women who are the embodiments of innovation and social evolution. Please join Leslie as she shares potent conversations that will inspire your personal and professional evolutions.
Welcome back to Women We Should Know, the podcast where we consistently bring you amazing women who are coloring outside of the lines, challenging the status quo by refusing to get into boxes that were created by someone else. Women who are carving a new path and leaving a torch on so that we can follow in whatever way and at whatever timing we are ready. This is the fulfillment of a dream for me. Ever since I was a child, I've had this dream. Actually, I was 12 years old when I had the dream of creating a way, a means of being able to help women have a brighter spotlight, get their message out to more people. And each one of the women who come and film an episode with me honor that dream. And I so enjoy honoring what they are bringing to the world. Today, we have Sabrina Protic with us. She is a motivational speaker, a wife, a mom, and a grandmom who loves educating and empowering her community as a licensed world-class financial coach and certified life coach. Sabrina is the author of Growing Ageless, Think Young, Live Younger. She's collaboratively authored Top 25 Changemakers, Keep Smiling, Dose of Hope, international bestsellers, Wellness for Winners, and The Book I Read. She's also the COO and a co-host of international streaming live Thriving Women Talk on E360 TV. We'll need to all be tuning into that, right, women? Sabrina is the founder of WEE Women's Entrepreneurial, an organization striving for continuous opportunities for women to expand their networks, develop their relationships, and grow their business. And as we all know, relationships are key to business for women. Sabrina is the co-founder of the Sharper Woman newsletter that is a resource to help women live longer, younger, stronger, and smarter lives, utilizing the power of information. Living by the motto, happiness is the prescription for longevity. Sabrina enjoys inspiring people to overcome obstacles and live their best lives. And so now today, she's going to give us some little tips how to do all of that for ourselves and how to spread it around to all the other women that we know. Sabrina, I am so delighted to have you with us today.
Well, Leslie, thank you so much. And I feel right at home on this show because you're about empowering women as well. As you mentioned, your lifelong dream was to do this, and here we are right here. And I am helping you fulfill your dream. And at the same time, you're helping me fulfill mine. I'm just so excited to be on this show today.
Well, thank you. Isn't that really what it's about? Isn't that the way all of us as women are going to rise and going to achieve equity and going to discover our greatest, boldest selves is by collaborating together and lifting each other up, helping each other fulfill our dreams.
It exactly is that. And I experienced that myself, Leslie. I went to a networking event last night, and I want to say this, I'm excited. I'm going to be featured on a magazine, my very first one, very first cover. I'm going to be on a cover of a magazine, and we're doing I'm so excited. There's a lot in the works. This started, 8 months ago, because you got to plan, you got to do photos, you got to write the article, so much. But we're doing a big we call it a Met Gala event, and it's a semi-formal dinner and all of that. So what I want to share is how women rise for each other. So I just put this out there in my network. It's invitation only, but I put the flyer out there. We're having this my first time being featured on the cover of a magazine. And hey, network, really support me. We've got this dinner. If you receive an invitation, you really matter to me. So I'm at this event last night. I just posted it 24 hours ago, and a few of the ladies said, tell us about this event. We really want to support you. And I'm thinking, I feel like I'm nobody. I mean, there's, so many things going on. They brought it up to me, and they said, send us information about it. We want to attend. We want to come. We want to support you. Now that, Leslie, that really touched me to my core.
Of course.
Because, we hear so many things, oh, women, they don't, celebrate women. They don't, but these women were willing to support me. So first thing this morning, I sent out a few personal invites, and they're all about it. Let's get details, when, where, time. These are the bridges, Leslie, that you and I are building. And this is what we're talking about. Women supporting women and helping us rise. And I just felt so good about that. It was more than I could have imagined, that these relationships that I've built over the years, now they're coming to rally around me. And I felt really good about that, Leslie.
Well, of course they're coming to rally around you. You are out there doing some big, amazing things for a lot of people. And congratulations, Sabrina. Congratulations.
I'm so excited. And what really makes this exciting is, you mentioned earlier, it doesn't matter where we are in our stage of life. I'm obviously past the bloom of youth, but here I am, growing and evolving and thriving in my retirement years.
Yes.
I talked about that. Here I am in my retirement years, and these doors are opening, but they've opened because I've poured into others.
Yes. And
I work daily. I mean, daily, to establish relationships. And I would define that. When I initially get on social media, the first thing I look for is, who can I celebrate? Who can I put a like by? Who can I say great job? Who can I say congratulations to? And I will spend maybe 20 minutes doing that before I even look at what I put out there.
Right.
I look to see who I can support first. And that is what I mean by elevating, supporting, and growing your network. Those are the things that I do, even connecting with you as part of that. And right? How can we help each other? Is what we do.
That's right. That's right. And you touched on something I want to go back to. You said you're not in the bloom of your life, that you're in your retirement years. Well, I'm 65. Anyone who's listened to this show more than 5 minutes knows that I am proudly 65 and building whole new platforms. And I would like to know if you are seeing what I am seeing, Sabrina. There is a rush, a wave, if you will, of women who are 55 to 70, who are just now coming forward. They're creating new platforms. They are creating new initiatives, and all of them are founded around either uplifting women or uplifting women and children.
Exactly that. And I actually walk that talk myself. So let's kind of go back a little bit. Most of us are moms. So we raised a family. We devoted moms. Many of us worked outside of the home. Maybe we had careers, and we were, top performers in our careers, corporate America. I did that for 41 years. I was a corporate operations manager, and I stood tall in my company. So everything I touched, I gave it more than 100%, and I did a phenomenal job. I wasn't growing me, I was growing an entity. I
Yes.
poured into my family and my children because that was my gift,
Mhm.
to them.
Mhm.
But what's happening is women in our ages, I'm in my 60s as well, we kind of look back and says, wait a minute, I watered and grew a lot of plants,
Mhm.
but I didn't focus on me and growing me and then taking me, the best of me, and helping others.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I realized that, Lisa, 2 years ago when the pandemic rolled around and I lost my corporate job. I
Mhm.
thought, wow, I just poured into that and there's nothing left for me.
Right.
There's nothing on the table for Sabrina.
Right.
What's going to happen? So when you mention women in this 40, 50, 60, even 70,
Yes,
we're coming into our own right
we
now,
are.
Leslie. We're realizing that, you know what? Life is really just beginning.
It really is. And we really are, being at the end of the baby boomer generation, you and I, we are the first um, block of people in this country, citizens in this country, who have gotten to this age that was called retirement in our grandparents and our parents' age. And we are nowhere near ready to go and sit on the pier and fish or stare at the sky.
Oh no, that
No,
ain't happening here. Well,
no, we are
you know,
changing the whole, just by doing what we're doing, we are changing the whole paradigm and the whole culture. And it'll be many years when we look back on it and see how that impacted, but there's a change going on and women are leading that change.
we are, and it's made us more vibrant, more
Yes.
youthful, more energetic. I think years back when women and men, but women we're talking today, reached those retirement years, we
Mhm.
stopped.
Right.
We stopped moving. We
Yes.
stopped engaging, and we really started aging rapidly.
Yes, we did.
Now, you look at a woman in her 50s and you think she's in her 30s and 40s.
That's right.
And it's not just about the physical appearance, it's the vibration that you give off, it's the energy, it's the
Yes.
conversations that we have. Uh, these women are on point. I'm telling
Yes.
you, these women in their 50s, 60s, 70s, they are sharp and they're contributing to society and one another in a really big way. And that's where I found myself. How can I contribute to society at this point when
Mhm.
I lost that job 2 years ago? And it certainly wasn't, let's go get another job.
Right.
That was
Been there,
not
done
me.
that.
Been there, rode that bicycle.
Yes.
And that was why I got licensed in financial services so that I could help people where they really needed it. And in these retirement years, a lot of us found out that not only weren't we physically and mentally ready to retire, we were not financially ready to retire. There are a lot of things
Absolutely.
we just hadn't
Mhm.
done.
Right.
And that's kind of what I do, enriching our community on financial education.
Yes. Well, companies are vastly different now than what they were for our parents and our grandparents. And I take my hat off to you for going and getting certifications in areas that are crucial to who we are now so that you can help more women continue to contribute while feeling like they're also building their own chest, as it were.
Well, yes. And what we found is many, many years ago, women didn't even know what their financial status was.
Yes.
Husbands always pretty much did all of that.
Yes.
And we found a lot of women, if something happened to the husband, they didn't know anything. Well,
Yes.
I don't know. Well, my husband always handles all of that. Now, we're not disparaging husbands, but what we're saying is that we need to know. We need to be owners of our financial future, not just financially, of every aspect of our lives. And
Absolutely.
I don't think it was that the husbands kept us out of that. I think we just didn't involve ourselves in it. We just left that to them And then we found ourselves in the dark and in some serious financial trouble if we didn't involve ourselves in some of those things. At least just know,
Yes.
at least just know, right, Leslie?
Right. And it was a societal element. I mean, I remember when I was at the end of high school, women still could not get a credit card in their own name.
Mm.
So there was still a much more prevailing existence of a dominant patriarchy in respect to women. But we broke that. And we've moved through, and we're going to continue to move. And I really like the topic you brought forward about women not knowing, because women still don't know. I bet you know both of these statistics. Mutual of Omaha, big monster of a company, polled all their women a while back. 65 or 67% of the women said they'd rather talk about their death than their finances. And then another woman I know who is in finance, like yourself, helping women, read a report that 81% of women polled said they'd rather be naked in front of a stranger than discuss their finance. This is a true burden that women are putting upon themselves, that we have to throw that boulder off.
Absolutely. And the question is, why don't you know? Is it that we feel like we shouldn't know? Do we feel inferior? Do we need to make some cultural changes and some generational? They said break the generational curse. Is it because mama didn't know, so I don't know? And are we going to pass that on to our daughters? This generation, why don't we know? Here's some classic things that I run into when I'm working with women in finance. I'll ask a basic question like, who are the beneficiaries on your, documents? Well, I don't know. My husband's handling all of that. Well, what type of investments do you have now? Well, I don't know. My husband's handling all of that. Well, what is your financial game plan? Where is your household going to be in the next 5 years financially? Where is it you'd like to be? Well, I don't know. My husband's handling all of that. And I think when they hear themselves say that, it's when they realize they don't know something that they need to know.
Yes.
I mean, it's
They're
kind
still
of a wake-up
playing.
call.
They transferred that daddy role from their father to their husband. While the laws progressed, it takes a little longer sometimes for people to catch up, and women need to catch up with that.
Yes, they do need to catch up with it. You're right about something too about laws. Now we're talking back in the 1900s. I'm going way back because I researched this. Did you know that women were not allowed to get life insurance?
I did not know that. That is very interesting, Sabrina.
It was against the law for a woman to get life insurance. A man could get life insurance.
That speaks volumes.
Oh,
I mean, it'd be one thing if it just wasn't, if it was just not traditional. Oh, women aren't valued enough to have it, but to have it against the law is astounding.
It was not only was it against the law, if a husband were to get life insurance, he had to leave his creditors as benefactors. He couldn't leave his wife as the beneficiary. So she may be at home with 5 and 6 kids. Look at your eyes. I'm so Leslie.
It's hard to surprise me at this point, being a third generational feminist, but that one caught me off guard.
Yeah, I think I'll send you the research on that. That blew me out the water.
Please do.
It blew me out the water. And so these poor women were left struggling and destitute when their husbands passed away, because whatever the husbands had to go to creditors.
That is astounding. So let's come back to 2022.
Okay.
We are still carrying, I'm sure, DNA fragments of that patterning and that imprinting. We are carrying societal patterns. We're carrying generational cellular data. How do you help women those are wonderful tips for women to start asking themselves those questions and find out what the answers are. Or I would even recommend sitting down with a girlfriend and doing it together so that you actually hear it out loud, bouncing off of another person. What are the next steps you take to help women find the courage to be financially conscious?
Well, I would say the first thing to do is to analyze your personal finances. And that could be even, you could be in a
Now
household.
let's do baby steps, Sabrina. If these women don't even know who they're bequeathing to, they probably might not know what does that mean. Where do they start analyzing?
Okay, so let's start with a few things. Let's start with income.
Yes.
Are you bringing in, this is a question to women, are you bringing in any income? And if you are, where are you tracking that income? Is it going into the family household budget and you never see it because it just gets deposited? You never know what happens to it. It just kind of rolls in. And but maybe you can keep a journal yourself of your contributory income for the month, for the week. Just chart that out. So at the end of the year, you see what you have contributed to the household financially. I imagine a lot of women just don't even know that. They may not even know how much they're contributing to the household financially. And sometimes we feel inferior because we feel like we're not contributing financially, or maybe we're not contributing much, but you don't even know where you stand because you have no idea what you're contributing.
Right.
So that's number one, is income. Number two is, what are your debts? What are your personal debts? What are the debts that you are aware of? You know, do you have
debts that if you were all of a sudden single for whatever reason, these travel with you, kind of debts?
Yes,
right?
Yes. Yeah, let's keep track of those things. That can grow on you and you don't even know. And you don't have to be a electronic data wizard. This is something that you could keep in a regular 3-ring binder notebook or whatever. Or if you know how to do spreadsheets, you can put it on the spreadsheets. Very simple. You got a plus column, which is income. You got a minus column, which is the things that you owe. So let's be aware of the things that we owe. Now, just for those two, and I mean, that includes student loans. This is your personal debt. We're not talking about household. Maybe you don't know what husband's doing. Maybe you do. But right now, let's look at the things that we can control.
Exactly, because when we get into that topic of not knowing what husband's doing, that's a whole nother podcast.
Different topic. That's a whole different animal.
A whole
podcast. Let's look at what we know. And yeah, I remember the day, I'm going deep here, but you know, my husband was buying things I didn't know anything about. And I'm talking large dollar amounts. And I had no clue what was going on in the house. I didn't. You know, Leslie, you know what I'm talking about.
I've heard these stories. I have positively heard these stories.
Oh, I just, yeah, that was crazy. I remember one day we had some family visiting, and this is first husband years ago. And he was showing off this camera. I didn't even know anything about it. You know, when these cameras have come out, it was at least almost $3,000.
Oh my.
Yes.
And years ago, $3,000 was a lot more than $3,000 is today.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't know anything about it, and he was bragging to it. Yeah, I just bought this camera. Sabrina didn't know anything about it, and I'm like, wow, why don't I know?
Right.
Paying for that. But anyway, let's talk right now about the things that we know about. We should at least know what we're bringing in and what our personal debt is, and then add those columns up. You should be tracking that every year and at least know, oh, if I had to be on my own for some strange, odd reason, this is my income and this is my debt. Can I afford to take care of me? That's the first thing we need to have, is that income and that debt identified.
Yes.
Second thing we need to look at is, are we contributing to growing our income? And when I say contributing, if you are at if you're working and the company is offering a 401k program and they're doing a matching, are you contributing to that? Are you taking advantage of growing your money and matching?
Mhm.
I encourage everyone to do that. Now, you think that would be a really simple thing that people would do it. Well, I'm here to tell you, my family didn't talk about that when I was growing up. I didn't know. So when I
Oh, it
started
was
working,
just bad manners 60 years ago.
I had no idea.
No,
I knew nothing.
no.
I knew nothing. And so therefore I did nothing,
Mhm,
and it wasn't good.
mhm,
So when I would say the first 5 years I worked in my corporate job, I was not contributing to my 401k.
mhm.
I wasn't educated on it.
Right,
I didn't know what matching was.
right.
I didn't have a clue. So we want to encourage you, if there's free money out there, because a employer that's going to do matching, that's free money.
Mhm.
Take
Sure is.
advantage of that.
Yes,
Am I right about that, Leslie?
you are absolutely right about that.
Yeah, take advantage of that. And I know there's usually a cap, it
For
might be
401ks and also profit sharing programs.
profit sharing. Yes. Yes, you want to take advantage of those. Those are all wonderful programs. Um, there's normally a cap. They may go up to
Yes.
6%. If you put in 6, they'll put in 12, or maybe if you put in 3, they'll put in 6. You want to max out on that as much as you can.
Yep.
That comes out of your paycheck before you even see it.
Mhm. And
So
that is the beauty of it. You really, after the first couple of paychecks, it's a little startling the first couple, but after that, it's normal. This becomes whatever your new normal is with your paycheck, that becomes normal. Your
it
mind
becomes normal.
automatically adjusts to fit within those parameters.
Yes. And another thing that some of these corporate employers offer is the ability to save. Are you saving any money? We had a credit union, and so I could have money taken right out of my check and go straight into the credit union before I saw it. A lot of times when I sit down with women, they have no money. They have no, maybe husbands giving them money and they're working. So what about taking some money out of your paycheck and having it put aside in a savings account? At the credit union. Now, granted,
Do you advise women to do this in their name only?
well, yes, I do. I do advise them to do their name only, because first of all, we want them to establish credit.
Yes,
We want them to establish credit, and the way to get credit is to have things in your name,
yes.
including, because they're going to ask about bank accounts and things like that. And
Mhm.
so you'll tell them my money's in this credit union, that, bank account, whatever. So yes, we need things in our name. And
Yes.
I will tell you a big mistake I know I made when I was, newly married, and
Sure.
made everything joint. Well, what happens if you divorce?
Mhm.
You don't have a credit history.
You don't.
You don't exist.
No.
Really, you have to do a do-over and start over, establishing credit in your own name. So I
And
do.
that's the thing in our society, isn't it, Sabrina? Even though it was in both names, all value of credit reference goes to the man in the divorce. The woman doesn't walk away with the same level of benefit.
Exactly. You're carrying his name for one.
Exactly.
So, and a lot of things, the way documents are worded too, when
Mhm.
you sign things, and even things from buying a car and all types of, the way it's signed, if it's Sabrina and John Doe, or John Doe and Sabrina, it's just even the way those things are worded. So
Yes.
I'm going to encourage women to work on establishing your financial identity.
And what do you say about speaking of Sabrina and or John and, what about the and or clause? What is
But
your advice to women on activating the and or instead of just and?
well, when you say and, that means it takes both to
Yes.
proceed with a transaction. If you say or, that means either you or that person can proceed with the
Correct.
transaction.
Mhm.
Here's an example of that. Let's say you both own a car. And if you have Sabrina or John Doe, well, John Doe can go sell the car without you.
Right.
And that's happened many times in marriages and relationships.
Mhm.
Hubby comes home and he stole the car.
Mhm. I know women who have gotten themselves in quite a little mess with the and or clause. That's why I asked you
Oh,
about it.
yes. Oh, I've been down that road. You get something sold, you didn't know anything about it.
Mhm.
It was because it was an or
Right.
and not an and.
Mhm.
So you said, well, my name was on it. Yeah, but it was an or. How could you
Mhm.
do that?
Right.
So women, heads up here. You're getting a little education from Leslie and Sabrina on identifying your financial footprint and growing your assets in different ways that you can grow your assets. Those are all. I want to mention something else too. When you open up accounts,
Mhm.
bank accounts,
Mhm.
that you can put beneficiaries on your accounts. I don't know if people are aware of that, but if you open a savings account or a checking account, you can have a beneficiary on your account. And that's important. If something happens to you, and that's different from a signer.
Correct.
That's not the same. A beneficiary has no control over your account while you're living or anything. It just means that if something happens to you, they become the benefactor of your account. That's really all that means.
Right.
But you want to take precautions. I just really can't stress that enough. To also make sure part of controlling your money is that you have ensured that someone else will be benefactor of your money, because it's like this: either you make a decision or one will be made for you.
Mhm.
Either you make one or one will be made for you. So identify those elements where there's financial resources that you identify a beneficiary.
And then it seems to me, tell me if you are of this mind, seems to me that you want to keep track of that. You don't want to get 10 years down the road and you are divorced and you never went back and took your former husband off the beneficiary.
Oh, I did that. That happened to me. I had divorced and I forgot about my 401k.
Mm.
It wasn't until a year later when someone at work passed away and his children were grubbing after his money, and I thought, did I do anything with my 401k? I had not. My ex-husband's name was still on it as beneficiary. Leslie, I was sweating. I was weak. I thought I was going to pass out, because I knew that if something happened to me at that very moment, that he would get my money, and it was quite a bit.
Mhm.
And I couldn't even breathe. I'm filling this form out, getting it submitted, and hoping that would come back and it would all be done while I was still breathing. So women, women, listen, heads up.
Yes.
If you have a relationship change, make sure you change the paperwork. That's on your savings account, checking account, 401ks, investments, anything that you have. Make sure that you go in and update those forms, and it can be done. Normally, when you're changing beneficiaries or anything like that, you have to get it notarized. That's another thing. You have to get those things notarized because it's a legal document and it is a change. But make sure you take care of that. Get your financial footprint strong.
I want to ask you another thing, what your opinion is on this. This is something I've read. I read so much. It's always wonderful to speak to an expert so I can find out what the other opinion is. And that is that there are very teeny tiny safe deposit boxes at the bank. You don't have to have a great big monster thing if that's not appropriate to your need. And it said that women should always have one of those safe deposit boxes, and they should keep all of their personal financial papers in there, their passport in there, and all of that type of thing, so that they have a secure financial footprint no matter what happens. What's your position on that?
I have a safety deposit box at the bank. That's where I feel most safe. Now, I do know that people will have them at their home. I don't feel that comfortable with that. So I have a safety deposit box at the bank with the key. And inside of that is everything. That's my financial footprint. And so it's my investment policies are there. You know, my life insurance policy is there. My will is there. Anything that I want that can actually change the financial trajectory of my life is in that safety deposit box. Special coins and documents are there. But no one, you know, you've seen these things where movie stars have passed away and nobody can find the will. Nobody can find the will.
Nobody can find the will.
People shouldn't have to look for it. So that's where my will is. And by the way, make sure that on the order of wills, because I've spoken with an estate planner, that you get your will documented properly. There should be witness signatures and dated to your will. And then go back and update your will. Maybe once a year, every couple of years, go back and review it again. There may be some changes you have to make, and initial it with the current date. Keep your will updated, and make sure you have it done. I know there's wills that you can buy online and everything. I did use an attorney to draw mine up because I did want, and I found out a lot when I did that, because some things you thought you could do, you couldn't do, because you know, there's things that can happen with wills. But that's when I learned that I had to get people to sign, you know, and their name, address, and phone number, their contact information was also on that will. So make sure that you have a good, legitimate will that hopefully won't be questioned and challenged in a court of law. That's very, very important. And that will should be where everybody can get a hold of, you know, when time, and name a really good, smart executor. Gotta have a good executor.
And I would think when you speak about updating your will, just with a signature and a current date once or every year or two, that would be the time that you would want to pay special attention and make sure that those addresses and phone numbers of your witnesses are up to date and current.
And that's true. And also your will, my will was notarized. I had to get my will notarized. I had an attorney draw it up, but I had to go get it notarized. Again, validating who I am, but you're right, getting that updated information, the, you know, new witnesses and everything on that will, because that's like that is your last will and testament. Yes. It's your time to say what you want done. So take that will seriously. I mean, because if you don't, somebody's going to decide. Also, a will helps you avoid probate.
Or helps your beneficiaries avoid probate.
Yes. Can we explain probate, Leslie?
I can't.
Okay, so
you go right ahead and do that.
Probate is the court of law to determine who is going to be the benefactor of a property. So case in point, I own a home right now. And so I have a husband and children. Ooh, who's gonna get the house? Who's gonna get the house? Is it gonna be hubby? Is it gonna be kids? Is it gonna be my mother who's still living, my brothers and sisters? Because when you pass on, any blood relatives may have a right to your property. Whoa, do you guys hear that? Any blood relative may have a right to your property,
including that brother you haven't spoken to since 1983.
People come out of the woodwork. They come out of the woodwork.
Yes.
So if you have not written a will, and also depends on the laws in your state, because in some states they have something called the Ladybird Law, which means that if you have a living spouse, automatically the spouse has the home. But if something happens to the spouse in your will, you can state once if the spouse gets the house, you have a right to say what you want done with the house. So in your will, you can state, well, after John Doe passes on, I want to go to grandkids or kids or whatever. You still have some power. But in the interim, your state is wide open. Then in your will, you want to state what happens, because if you don't, when that person, the homeowner, passes on, you've got to go to every living relative and get them to sign off on who's going to get the house.
That seems like a very unfair bequeathment.
Very unfair, because some people are really going to make it hard. Some want the house, some don't care about the house, they want the money. And it can get very ugly And probate is costly too, costs thousands of dollars. So who's going to pay that? Number one, somebody's got to go hire the probate attorney. So who's going to pay that? It's going to be divvied up and split up amongst the living relatives. Maybe the long lost cousin don't want to pay a dime, but they want their money. But so in a probate situation, a letter is sent to all known blood relatives, and they have to sign off on the conditions. Whoever is determined will get the property, or that they all agree the property is going to be sold and the monies will be divided up. Whatever agreement they're going to come to, then that whole process goes through. That can take months, and in cases years, if people are challenging the probate system.
Now, I could just feel some of our listeners saying, oh my gosh, my head is hurting. This is a lot of information. If your head is hurting, it's because this is a lot of important information you haven't really looked at before. So put it down. It's still going to be on Spotify tomorrow. It's still going to be on iTunes tomorrow. It's still going to be on the website tomorrow. And you can come back and you can take it in bite-sized pieces. But I implore you to listen to what Sabrina has been saying and to start implementing. But right now I'm going to shift gears because she has done so many other interesting things. I am so grateful, Sabrina, that you have given our female listeners all of this education, but I just want to hear about top 25 change makers.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. That book was really born out of the pandemic. So a lot of us, lost our jobs, lost our businesses, or we had to pivot. We had to make some quick shifts and some quick changes.
Who didn't pivot?
Everybody, it caused you to think. Maybe we got complacent. Maybe we got too comfortable. So there are 25 authors in that book that had to make a quick shift and pivot. And we tell our stories of what that landscape looked like. What did we have to go through? What were our wins? What were our losses? What were our gains? What were our pains? And where are we now?
Yes.
And we drafted that book, and there's some very interesting stories of things that people that lost thousands and millions and maybe hundreds, but those hundreds were like millions.
Well,
that had to
a lot
start
of times
over.
it's the people who are losing hundreds that can least afford it.
And believe it or not, what we don't think about, the nonprofit organizations that suffered.
Oh, I
A lot
didn't
of them
think
suffered.
about that. I didn't think about that.
A lot of nonprofits suffered during the pandemic. A lot of the funds and monies that they were getting were not coming in. So some of these companies that were supporting organization, like there was one guy in there, he was providing sporting opportunities and equipment for children, and that money dried up.
Oh my.
And there he was left, not only his inability to take care of these children,
right,
but even himself, because we didn't think about that. We didn't think about the financial contributory agencies that were out there that had to make quick shifts and quick changes. Right. So we told our story of change, and it was called Top 25 Change Makers out of Florida. So the vision for this book was this would be also done in other states. And I think they were doing the state of Georgia and some other states culturally, because things are different. Florida is a sunshine state. A lot of retirees are here. And so the way business is done here is different in other states. So we wanted to know, what did they go through? How did they adjust during those challenging times? And what lessons have we learned out of the pandemic of being able to shift and change? What did we learn from that? So that's what that book is all about.
I love that. And I really don't see any reason that women could not continue to carry this forward, because the one thing we are all adjusting to, some of us foresaw that this would be the inevitable outcome, and some are caught way off guard. But what we're adjusting to is the fact that there is no longer any normal. We are recreating from scratch. And I could see maybe you, whoever is hearing that, you most strongly as you're listening to this while you're jogging. Maybe you are the one to start that movement, to create that book in your state. You could reach out to Sabrina, because now, women, you know I'm going to do for you what I always do. I'm going to put all of her contact information and her links and everything in the program notes. I'm never going to leave you hanging. You'll always be able to get in touch with our guests. But maybe one of you would pick it up and talk about the 25 change makers coming out of COVID. I would like to read that. If you do that, you be sure and get in touch with me. I want to know about it. I think that's a fabulous idea, Sabrina, and thank you for bringing up the nonprofits. I had not thought about that. I'm going to have to start reaching out to some of those people and starting conversations about what they need and how we can, as women, support these nonprofits that are, particularly those that are women founded. Just because that's my thing. Now, the other thing I want to hear about is Thriving Women Talk.
Let's talk about that, Thriving Women Talk.
Please, let's talk about that, Sabrina.
So that's a streaming live international show, and it was designed
international
live international, yes. And it was designed to provide information that was non-religious, non-political, and non-gossip. So we didn't want to make it a tabloid type show.
Right.
We wanted to talk about, much like what you do, we wanted to talk about topics that impact women around the world internationally, that would provide encouragement, enlightenment, and empowerment. That's what we stand on, is those 3 E's. And currently, so it started out all women, Thriving Women Talk. We have incorporated 1 or 2 shows that have men on there. That's called Uncomfortable Conversation being one, where we talk about social topics. Imagine talking about social topics, absent of politics, religion, and gossip. Imagine that. Wow. So, yeah.
I'll have to give some thought to that.
Yeah, you really. So give me an illustration of that. One was about fatherless boys.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, fatherless boys. Yeah, we talked about that. We actually even talked about fathers and Father's Day and the role of fathers, because there are a lot of single dads out there that may not get the accolades that they need to. Boy, they do a lot, these single dads. So we talk about that. We've talked about women in prison.
Oh, now that's a topic I find very important.
That's important. Women in prison, and how when they, the shift of coming out of prison, reintegrating in society, and what that looks like. We've talked about babies being born in prison. That's a biggie.
That is a big topic.
So things like that, what about being a caregiver? There are a lot of women that are caregivers to a parent with Alzheimer's, or they don't want to put them in nursing home, and what that's like, and that life and that sacrifice, and getting some support out there, support groups. We talked about mental health, that's really big, and getting support. So that's what, we just try to cover the gamut of things. And then how else can we uplift and encourage women?
It's brilliant. Everything you do, Sabrina, is so admirable and is bringing such goodness. I could keep on talking, but I'm getting the time outside.
Leslie, you and I have great chemistry. We could just keep talking for another hour. You know that?
Well, we will. It's just that we won't be able to do it on camera.
Not here.
Okay, women, my goodness. Did Sabrina share some gold with you today? Now, I want you to be sure and re-listen to this and take these things seriously, not because we talked about it, but because you deserve it. You deserve the benefit that will come from having taken this seriously and having stripped away the veil of fear of looking at finance and talking about finance. I also want you to be sure and like, subscribe, and share this episode. because of those statistics that I cited earlier, how many women are afraid to talk about their finance? I guarantee you that even if that's not you, you know at least a handful of women who fit that description. Maybe just share the episode with one. She'll watch it, she won't. She'll take action, she won't. But you'll have contributed. You'll have participated in giving her a chance to uplift herself a little bit. So like, share, comment, and again, always come to the website, lesliemichaels.com, go to the podcast, read all of Sabrina's information. Track down her social media links. I'll have them on there for you. Send her a message, read her books. This is a woman we should definitely know. Thank you, Sabrina, so much for coming and being so generous.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone.
Today.
We hope you received
Leslie. I
inspiration
appreciate the
for expanding your own social innovation and influence.
Well, that's another one,
Help
ladies,
us inspire
another
others
wonderful
by
conversation.
sharing this episode and leaving your comments
So
over at
as you go forward through the
lesliemichaels.com/podcast.
Please remember.
For more tips, insights, and support in
You
creating a
are
fully audacious,
stronger
professional, and personal
and
lifestyle
wiser
you love,
than you
visit
know.
our Women We Should Know community on Facebook.